Okay, this is the learning frame for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and we're just going to, do it. Okay. How does the script or performance embody moral agency? In what ways do the characters explore and define morality? How are the consequences for their actions enacted? First question, well, those are all one question, but first segment, moral agency. Yes, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern make choices, but their agency is somewhat limited because the plot of Hamlet keeps moving forward kind of without them. Like, especially in those, because I watched the movie version, so like all these transitions would just like take you to the next scene without any input by Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for the most part. Especially because they can't remember how they really got to this point, and they're not desiring to follow this path, really. They're kind of just set on it. And then, what ways do the characters explore and define morality? They definitely explore it quite a bit. The definition is left a little bit broad, but they deal with these, existential issues, especially toward the end, as they're coming to terms with the fact that they are going to die, or it's a possibility. But it's kind of left open-ended on what it actually means and its weight and gravity. On the one, like, I don't remember if it's Rosencrantz or Guildenstern that says that it's not something that should be feared, and then the other one says that it is in fact something that is scary. And so they definitely really just explore it, but leave it a little bit open-ended. Okay, number 2. What was your prior knowledge to this production, and how did this impact your understanding? How did your internal bias impact your understanding? I knew that this play existed, and I knew that it was like renowned and stuff, and I knew that it was absurdism, but I didn't really know anything about it. But obviously not obviously, but I've studied like Hamlet before, so that definitely I think had an impact on my understanding, because I think if I had watched Rosencrantz and Guildenstern first, 1, I would have been a little confused, but 2, if that was my first impression of all of these characters, the things that I was getting out of it I think would have been different than my experience as it is, having watched Hamlet and learned about that tragedy before having this interaction with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern on a more in-depth and a totally different take on the tale. So I think that internal bias just affected what I got out of it, and what I was focusing on, because since I already knew the whole tragedy of Hamlet, I was more focused on the protagonists of this story and what their interactions were. So yeah. Okay, number 3. How did this set design and costumes add or detract from the message of the production? The set and costumes, so I watched the movie version, and they feel very, not like low production quality, but just like kind of ragtaggedy put together. Obviously it's like beautiful and decadent, especially like those big, like almost painted, the big room that they're in a lot, but it feels like constructed and put together, which seems to align with the role of like the players and them putting on this play, and the lead player being really the only one who knows all of what's going on, because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern sure don't know the full shtick. And so it feels, the whole production and the way it's shot, the costumes feel like it's the play. And I mean, you even have like pages of the play flying down at some point, at least I think that's what those were. So it just makes it feel put on, which I really think added to the messaging and made that more clear to me as an audience member. Seeing that it's kind of this show within a show within a show within a show at some points, which, adds to the absurdist nature of it, which came across strongly to me through the costumes in the set and the way it was filmed, since it was a film that I watched. Okay. Describe the structure of the plot. Was it linear, circular, or something else? How did the chosen structure add to the telling of the narrative? I don't know if I typed that right. Overall, the plot, I guess, is linear because, I mean, it kind of follows the plot of Hamlet, except just from, and with some extra stuff of Roz and Guil's adventures. But the way it is written and the dialogue feels very circular, or at least just like disjointed from, you know, I don't want to say normal, but like other styles of theater and how those are primarily written. Like the beginning part with the coins feels very circular because they're really just doing the same thing over and over again. The verbal tennis match, which was so funny. That part feels, and it feels like the whole thing is designed to keep you a little bit on your toes and wonder exactly what is. It left me feeling a little bit like confused, which I think was the point, and it adds to the absurdist nature, which goes into the next question. So we're just gonna jump to that one. Drawing on, but these things are related. Number 5, drawing on Martin Eslin's ideas about absurdism. How does this play resist clear meaning, resolution, or logic, and what does that resistance communicate about the human condition? So, to my understanding of absurdism and how it developed out of World War II and the disillusionment that came through that, and the realization of the meaningless and coincidence and lack of resolution, like how it says there, and that is a part of life, and then the absurdist theater being a way to deal with that and let those things exist and be presented, because there really is, that lack of clear resolution, and especially with studying melodrama right before this, and how that has its really poetic justice at the end and having a clear resolution, to this, which is just so lack thereof. Like, it just feels very like disjointed, and it doesn't appeal to our logical senses of what should happen, because really they die for like no really good reason, and it doesn't make sense, and so that resistance kind of lets that meaninglessness, and it lets it kind of have a place and communicates that is a part of life, and that part is not something to be ignored or covered up with clear morals, but something that is acknowledged at the very least. And then it kind of lets you come to your own conclusions about certain things, is my feelings about it. But overall, it was really interesting. I'd love to watch it again and get more out of it, because was a lot of points where I was like, wait, what? Because that's the whole point. But like, there's so many of their like existential back and forth that I don't think I fully understand. But all the while, it was super great and cool. Yep.